They say that history repeats itself. However, in some cases, it's not entirely true. For example, who do you think invented the wheel? Was it the ancient Greeks or the ancient Egyptians? Well, none of the above. It was actually the ancient Indians. That's right. The earliest evidence for the invention of the wheel was found in India in 3300 BC. What about modern technology like computers, smartphones, and the internet? Who invented them? And more importantly, did they know what they were getting into? Probably not. Just like the inventors of the wheel didn't know how it would change the world. Today we're going to uncover some shocking secrets from history that reveal how modern technology was known in ancient times. You won't believe what you're about to see. The Tower of Babel. Have you ever heard of the Tower of Babel? According to the Bible, it was a massive tower that reached up to the heavens. It was so tall that God had to come down and stop its construction because he didn't want humans to become too powerful. But what if the story of the Tower of Babel is actually based on a real event? What if there really was a tower that reached up to the sky? In 2015, researchers made an incredible discovery. They found the remains of a structure that may have been the inspiration for the biblical story. It was found near the ancient city of Babylon in modern-day Iraq. The structure was built in the 6th century BC, and it was over 80 feet tall. It was also perfectly round, just like the Tower of Babel described in the Bible. Researchers believe that this structure was used for astronomical observations. It could have been used to track the stars and planets, which would have been very important to the ancient Babylonians. But why would this have been considered a tower that reached up to the sky? Well, to the ancient Babylonians, the sky was the limit. They believed that the heavens were within reach. They didn't know that the earth was round, so it makes sense that they would think that you could reach the sky if you just built something tall enough. But then again, maybe they knew more than we give them credit for. Anti-gravity. Did you know that there are over 100 different theories of anti-gravity? Some scientists believe that anti-gravity is impossible, while others are convinced that it exists. One of the most popular theories of anti-gravity was proposed by Nobel Prize-winning physicist Albert Einstein. He believed that gravity could be cancelled out by centrifugal force. This is the same force that keeps water from spilling off of a merry-go-round. If you could somehow create a bubble of centrifugal force, then you could effectively create a bubble of anti-gravity. But what if anti-gravity isn't just a theory? What if it was known in ancient times? There are a lot of ancient texts that describe devices that seem to defy gravity. For example, there's the Chinese Book of Secrets called the Jinan, which describes a flying device that was powered by anti-gravity. It's called the flying board. It's a flat, rectangular object that can be used to fly through the air. The user simply has to step onto the board and focus their mind on where they want to go. The board will then take them there. Of course, this sounds like a fantasy, but there are also ancient texts that describe similar devices. For example, there's the Vimanas described in ancient Indian texts. These are said to be flying machines that were used by gods. They're often depicted with wings, but some versions don't have any wings at all. They must have used anti-gravity to fly. But these aren't the only ancient texts that describe anti-gravity devices. There are similar accounts in Egyptian, Greek, and Roman texts as well. So it's possible that anti-gravity was known in ancient times. But why isn't it known today? Well, it's possible that the knowledge was lost over time, or it's possible that the knowledge is still out there, but we just haven't found it yet. The future is now. Did you know that you're living in the past? According to some estimates, we're currently 40 years ahead of schedule when it comes to technology. This means that the future is now. In fact, many of the technologies that we're using today were predicted decades ago. For example, virtual reality was predicted in the 1930s. This is when the first virtual reality headset was invented. Of course, it wasn't nearly as advanced as the headsets that we have today, but it was still a very impressive invention. Another technology that was predicted in the past is the smartphone. In fact, the first smartphone was invented in 1992. It was called the IBM Simon Personal Communicator. It wasn't nearly as powerful as the smartphones that we have today, but it was still a very impressive invention. In fact, it had all of the basic features that we associate with smartphones today, such as a touch screen, a camera, and the ability to connect to the internet. But perhaps the most impressive prediction of the future is the internet itself. The internet was first proposed in the 1960s. This is when the first message was sent over the ARPANET, which was the precursor to the internet. Of course, the internet wasn't nearly as widespread in the 1960s as it is today, but it's still pretty impressive that people were able to predict the future so accurately.